You left me trembling, drowning in a silence that screams your absence. How could you vanish and leave fear as my only inheritance? I'm scared because your leaving broke the fragile trust I built in us. You disappeared, but your absence screams louder than any word you spoke. How could you just be scared when I held your name like a prayer? Your silence after leaving is a wound I'm too afraid to touch. I'm trembling because you left a void no love can ever fill. How could you leave me haunted by the ghost of your goodbye? You fled, but fear stayed, stitched deep inside my trembling heart. I'm scared because you left me with broken dreams and no directions. How could you leave me trembling, lost in the echoes of your absence? Your leaving was a storm that tore through the calm I once knew. I'm scared because your ghost lingers in every breath I take. How could you leave me scared when I gave you all I had? You left me trembling in the dark, afraid to even breathe. I'm scared because your absence is a cold echo that never fades. How could you disappear and leave fear to live where love belonged? Your leaving carved a canyon of silence inside my once full heart. I'm trembling because you left me holding memories sharper than knives. How could you leave me scared when I trusted you more than myself? You vanished, leaving only shadows and fear where warmth once lived. I'm scared because your absence screams louder than your presence ever did. Your silence after leaving is the loudest scream I've ever known. I'm scared because you left me with nothing but broken promises. How could you leave me scared when I held onto us so tightly? You disappeared like a ghost, leaving fear etched into my soul. I'm trembling because your leaving shattered the fragile peace I clung to. How could you leave me broken, scared, and still desperately hoping? Your absence is a wound bleeding in the quiet of my nights. I'm scared because your leaving turned love into a fading ghost. How could you leave me trembling in the shadows of goodbye? You left fear where love should have lived, cold and unforgiving. I'm scared because your silence after leaving screams in my heart. How could you leave me scared when I trusted you to stay? Your absence carved deep wounds no time can ever fully heal. I'm trembling because you vanished, leaving only fear behind. How could you leave me broken and scared in the same breath? You disappeared, but your ghost lingers in every shattered memory. I'm scared because you're leaving. Scared? How could you leave me trembling? How could you leave me trembling, lost in the void you made? Your silence after leaving is a scream I can't quiet. I'm scared because you left me with only broken dreams to hold. How could you leave me scared when all I wanted was to stay? You left a silence louder than any words ever spoken. I'm trembling because your absence haunts the corners of my mind. How could you leave me broken, scared, yet still longing for you? Your leaving was a storm that swallowed the light we shared. I'm scared because your ghost lives in every breath I take. How could you leave me trembling in the cold aftermath of love? You vanished, leaving fear as the only memory I possess. I'm scared because your silence after leaving screams in the dark. How could you leave me scared when I gave you everything? Your absence is a wound I'm too afraid to face. I'm trembling because your leaving turned love into a ghost. How could you leave me broken, yet so desperately craving you? You disappeared, but fear settled deep within my soul. I'm scared because your leaving left me empty and trembling. How could you leave me trembling, caught between hope and fear? Your silence after leaving is the loudest scream inside me. I'm scared because your absence turned love into a fading shadow. How could you leave me scared when I trusted you completely? You left me trembling, lost in the shadows of your goodbye. I'm scared because your leaving shattered the peace I held dear. How could you leave me broken, scared, and still hoping? Your absence is a cold echo that never fades away. I'm trembling because your silence screams louder than words. How could you leave me scared when I gave you my heart? You vanished, leaving fear where love once lived. I'm scared because your absence haunts every moment I breathe. How could you leave me trembling, lost in the dark you made? Your silence after leaving is a scream I can't escape. I'm scared because your leaving left me with shattered dreams. How could you leave me scared when all I wanted was you? You left a silence louder than any goodbye. I'm trembling because your absence lingers like a ghost. How could you leave me broken? Scared, yet still yearning. Your leaving was a storm that swallowed all our light. You scared me by showing love can dissolve without a trace. I'm scared of how your leaving reshaped the contours of my heart. How could you leave me with trembling hands and a broken soul? Your silence after leaving speaks louder than any words ever could. I'm scared because you left me with an ache no time can soothe. How could you leave me scared when I gave you all I was? You disappeared like a cruel dream, leaving only fear behind. If this touched your soul, don't scroll. Like, comment your favorite quote, and subscribe for more. You left me shattered, fear crawling beneath my skin like an unspoken warning. How could you disappear and turn my heart into a trembling shadow? I'm scared of the echo you're leaving carved inside my restless soul. You fled, but your absence clings tighter than any embrace ever did. How could you leave without a trace, leaving terror where love once lived? The silence you left screams louder than any words you never said. I'm scared because you turned love into a ghost story I can't forget. You vanished and left fear as my own companion in the dark. How could you leave me? How could you leave me trembling when I thought we were unbreakable? Your leaving was a slow poison, seeping into every heartbeat I own. I'm scared of loving the shadow you left behind instead of you. How could you walk away, leaving fear tangled with the memory of us? You disappeared, but your absence echoes louder than your presence ever did. I'm scared because your leaving made my world colder than I imagined. How could you leave me scared to dream, yet haunted by your ghost? You left fear behind, wrapped in silence and broken promises unsaid. I'm trembling because you left a wound that no light can touch. How could you leave like that? Like love was just a fleeting lie. Your leaving carved a canyon of fear inside my once safe heart. I'm scared of the emptiness your absence built where love used to live. How could you vanish, leaving behind only the scent of shattered trust? Your leaving wasn't absence. It was a storm that drowned every hope. I'm scared because the space you left feels too vast to fill again. How could you leave me scared when I held your name like a prayer? You left a silence so deafening, it drowned my every whispered hope. I'm scared of the void you made, a cold echo of what we were. How could you disappear, turning love into an unbearable, hollow ache? You left me trembling, lost in a shadow world you created with your leaving. I'm scared because you taught me how quickly love can turn to fear. How could you leave me with only trembling hands and unanswered questions? Your leaving burned through me, leaving fear in the ashes of trust. I'm scared of the ghost your absence became, haunting my every breath. How could you leave so easily, while I'm still trapped in your memory? You left fear like a wound, raw and bleeding beneath my fragile skin. I'm scared because your leaving whispered the end of all our promises. How could you leave me trembling, haunted by what you never said? Your absence is a storm inside me, fierce and relentless and endless. I'm scared of the silence you left, a scream I can't quiet. How could you vanish and leave me with only fear to hold? You left a scar deeper than any words could ever explain. I'm scared because your leaving turned love into a fading shadow. How could you leave me scared of the very thing I once trusted? Your absence is a wound that bleeds in the quiet of my nights. I'm trembling because you left me standing in the ruins of us. You disappeared, leaving me scared to love what might never return. I'm scared of the cold space you left where warmth used to live. How could you leave me broken and scared in the same breath? Your silence after leaving screamed louder than any goodbye ever could. I'm trembling because the ghost of your leaving haunts every moment. How could you leave me scared when I gave you everything I had? You left me with trembling hands and a heart that won't stop aching. I'm scared because you vanished like a cruel shadow in the night. How could you leave me haunted by the fear of never being enough? Your absence is a wound that time refuses to heal or close. I'm scared of the fear you're leaving planted in the garden of my soul. How could you leave me trembling, lost in the echo of what was? You disappeared, leaving behind a silence louder than any words spoken. I'm scared because you left me with only shattered dreams to hold. How could you leave me scared when all I wanted was to stay? Your absence is a slow ache that pierces deeper every day. I'm trembling because you left fear where love once dared to live. How could you leave me broken, scared, and still longing for you? You vanished, but the ghost of your leaving clings to my every breath. I'm scared because you left me standing at the edge of nothing. My dear, how could you vanish, leaving my heart trembling in the cold shadows of fear? You left cracks in my soul, whispers of terror that no light could mend. How could silence after you feel louder than your presence ever was? You fled, but the ghost of your absence screams louder than any goodbye. I wasn't ready to be abandoned. Your leaving became my endless night. The fear you planted grew roots, twisting hope into a haunted memory. How could you leave me scared when all I wanted was to be safe in you? Your absence isn't empty. It's a storm raging inside me, relentless and wild. You disappeared, but your shadow is stitched into every tremble of my breath. I begged for a trace, but you left only the chill of your fear. How did you turn into a ghost before my eyes, leaving my heart raw? Your leaving was a wound wrapped in silence, deeper than any scream. I am still scared. Scared of the space you carved in me without a word. You left me within trembling hands and a heart that refuses to still. How could you vanish and make my world a darker place to breathe? I'm haunted by how easily you left and how deeply it broke me. The fear you left behind whispers secrets I'm too afraid to hear. How could you leave like that, like fear was the only thing you knew? You fled the moment love turned heavy, and I was left to shatter. Your departure isn't peace. It's a fracture echoing in every breath I take. I'm scared of the void you left, swallowing all the light I had. You left me trembling, caught between love's ghost and fear's cruel grip. How could you leave me, standing on the edge of a falling world? Your absence is a cold echo that fills my chest with trembling doubt. The silence after you scares me more than your words ever did. You left me with fear like a scar, raw and endless beneath the skin. How could you leave me scared to love again, yet still aching for you? The fear you birthed inside me is louder than your fading heartbeat. You disappeared into shadows, leaving my heart to fight its own darkness. I'm scared you'll never come back, but terrified if you do. How could you leave me broken, scared, and still so desperately wanting? Your leaving turned love into a haunting echo I can't escape. I fear the emptiness you left. It consumes the space where you once were. You scared me by vanishing like I was never more than a fleeting thought. How could you leave without a warning, letting fear settle in my bones? You disappeared, and I'm left afraid of loving shadows, not light. Your leaving wasn't just absence. It was the sudden stop of my breath. I'm scared of how easily you slipped away, like I was never real. How could you leave me trembling, lost in the cold whispers of what we were? You left me scared of silence, where your ghost still lingers. Your leaving felt like a slow unraveling of the only thread I held. How could you leave me? Scared that love itself might be a lie? You scared me by showing how fragile our story truly was. The fear of losing you now lives in every beat of my broken heart. How could you leave me with trembling hands and a soul on fire? Your absence is a cruel lullaby that haunts my nights and dreams. I am scared because your leaving feels like an unfinished confession of pain. How could you leave me scared when I trusted you to be my safe place? You left me with questions that echo louder than any answers you gave. The fear you left behind is sharper than any words you never spoke. How could you leave me with nothing but this trembling silence? You scared me, by proving love can vanish without a trace. Your leaving wasn't a goodbye. It was a silence that screams in the dark. I'm scared, because you left me standing at the edge of what was us. How could you leave me so broken, yet so desperately craving your touch? You left fear where warmth should have lived. Now I shiver alone. I'm scared of the memories you burned into me with your leaving. How could you leave me scared to hope again, but unable to forget? Your absence tastes like fear and the bitter ache of forgotten promises. You left me trembling, lost in the dark between love and abandonment. How could you leave me scared when all I ever did was love? Your leaving was a storm that tore through the fragile calm I had. I'm scared because you left me to hold the pieces of what we broke. How could you leave me trembling beneath the weight of your silence? You scared me by disappearing like I was just a shadow in your life. Your leaving was the coldest confession. I wasn't enough to stay. I'm scared of what your absence taught me about love's fragility. How could you leave me scared, knowing the chaos you'd leave behind? You left a silence so loud it drowns out all my pleas. I'm scared because you left me with nothing but fractured dreams. How could you? You leave me trembling, like I was a ghost to you. Your absence whispers lies I'm too scared to believe or deny.